Hi, this is Kelly Borsheim. I'm a sculptor and today I'll be a painter. I find lots of interesting things to do around my home and I hope you'll join me today for some painting
Good morning.
with the trees.
I'm going to try, since I've now passed my driver's lessons for the Italy, at least the theory part of it, I have to do the driving later. I'm going to try painting this olive tree. I am currently standing in a field that's going to be, I'm standing in a future swimming pool. And I decided that I want to capture this tree before no one has access to standing in this position anymore. I carved stone here last year, but piano, they're making this work. So here's my subject, and here's the start of my sketch here. This is a wood panel done by Ragacci in Florence, and a little hair caught in there, I think I did that. Anyway, so this is a wood panel. It's been primed a couple of times with gesso vera, and I decided that I would start doing a charcoal drawing because with the events of my life lately, I haven't done a lot of art and I've lost a little bit of the confidence that just go right in and whip to it. Although I should, because I think that's the best. But also I want to see, even though I've been watching this tree for a couple years now and checking the light, I haven't quite decided how I wanted to depict it. And I like backlighting a lot. And that's what I want to do with this, although the side lighting is quite dramatic and pretty here. So I thought I would start the drawing part this morning, and then as the day progresses, I'm going to keep watching the light and make a decision on how I want these shapes to be lit. So right now what I'm going to say is, I'm trying to move away from the training that I have that basically means copy exactly what you see. And yet at the same time, I do want a representational thing, something. But the more important thing than representing something that exists is to feel something. And we do that, as my teacher Jared once told me, when I said, I don't get the same emotion I get looking at my drawing as I do when I look at the model's face. And he said, we don't draw emotion, we draw shapes. And that's true. So, but my emotion is my first key that tells me that something's wrong with my shapes, okay? Now, it's different drawing from the landscape because you may or may not ever notice that tree again. Some trees become famous and everybody recognizes their shape, such as the fish tree, right, Teresa? And others, you have to capture the essence of the tree because that's more important, the idea, and why I was attracted to it in the first place. So what I'm doing on my canvas to get to my end point is, again, I'm not trying to exactly copy that, what I see. What I want to do is say, okay, this is a 50 by 70 centimeter canvas. I have marked here the dimensions of the frame that I have, because I'm working backwards in this case. I found a frame from a friend, and it was a good price, so I decided to buy the frame and make something of it later. I may have to paint it or do something if it doesn't work, but whatever. So I'm doing my dimensions there. Now, what I'm doing on this decision making is I'm looking at my tree and seeing, okay, this curve here is higher than this one, and yet when this branch comes out, if you continue the flow line, this goes up like this, okay, for the middle branch. And then this one, I'm going to give it a little bit more of a dramatic arch because I think that's more interesting, and yet it's not so far gone out of the personality of the tree. What I'm looking at mostly is where things end at the space. In other words, I don't want this going straight to the corner. And over here, this is not really going to be the subject up here, but at the same time, I want to get a nice gradual curve that goes off into, am I holding this properly? Into an area that's going to work. So, goodness, I can't see in this light. I've got shades on. Even so, the LED on the back of the camera is really reflective. So I'm leaving this space. I know because the frame's coming up here, I'm probably going to lose a little bit more there. So I may move this over just a wee bit so I don't have a kiss. I don't want this to kiss at the border, then come out back again and go in again. So I may pull that in. But I like this curve that's happening here. So let's just pull this over here. Hope I'm getting that for you. And I'm looking at the diagonal. Then we have a little bit of short length and a little bit of longer length that curves down into this. So I want to keep this relationship good. But the other thing is when I look at my model over here, I see this grouping of the olive branches. I do want them coming down and breaking it. And I want to think about where compositionally I want that in my sculpture. I like the idea of this one little branch here that comes down and it breaks into over this, okay? I don't know if you can see that from here, but I like that breaking this so I don't just have just the straight wood, although I do like the wood, and there's a hole in the wood there that I find fun. So I like this cutting into the shape, but I don't want to make the blob of the leaves smack dab in the middle, okay? So as I'm designing this, I'm also thinking, where am I going to put all of these olives trees, olive branches and olives? So I've got a space coming down here, you see? That's going to make a nice frame for this. And I'll come down and I'll break the shapes up so that I don't have anything too similar. This is kind of an airspace. If you see in reality, the field actually, there's a ledge. It drops off right about here and then comes over. You see that? So this is going to be negative space that I may or may not copy what's really there. I do like this branch that's coming in the background a little bit to break up some of that. So again, it's more of trying to keep a personality, yet remembering I'm not making a copy of a tree, I'm making a painting, and I want to design that. And so these are the thoughts that are going on in my head while I do such a thing. So I'll talk to you later, because I really, really want to do something now. Thanks. Okay, I have a start here, don't I, Yoda? I have a start here on my canvas, and so that's my basic not heart shape, but V-shaped branches and things. And I started to go in with some very strokey kind of things. And I don't know if you can see it because the light's changing, but there's brown and the grays, and then there's a little bit of green with the whites, kind of starting to do the lichen that are in here. And I step back and I think, okay, I need to think about making the eye go where I want it to go. I like the shape that I have here. And when I look at reality, which is always a good inspiration, often, and maybe not always, I like the big bright green that's behind here. And this is my subject. I like the little hole. I like how the three branches come together and come into one thing. So really this, not center, but off here, lower here, excuse me, I'm having a hard time filming my own videos again. Anyhow, this is my center of interest right here, I've decided. So everything else is going to have to work towards letting your eye go here. To that effect, I think that the bright green rape that's growing in the background here in the field in the back would be a great excuse to put a big bright color here, and that'll increase the high contrast that's going to be here. Because if you can see, I did more black and the burnt umbers here than I did, and as I moved up here, you see, I got grayer. So it'll be subtle because there'll also be olive leaves all over this. Whoops, there's another accident with the wind. This is not really a painting plein air easel, so I may have to come up with some other ways. It's actually a display easel, but I decided that if I work with this, thanks Yoda, underfoot. If I work with this, then I can continue with my other studio things. So yeah, puppies are always where you want them to be. Look at that nice S-curve. Isn't he beautiful? Yoda. Yoda. Oh, say bravo. My neighbor's puppy. So what a mess this is, right? I mean, it's so sloppy compared to what my normal stuff is. But then again, it's the first hour or so of painting, and it's starting to get hot. My paints are starting to dry. This is acrylic. I decided, since we're in a field where we eat what we grow here, so I decided not to use oils. And also I'm kind of leaning toward trying to see what kind of ability I can get out of acrylic, because I've never really done a whole lot of stuff with that before the murals. So what I wanted to talk about is, you see how I'm grouping now? The subject area is right here, so I'm putting it as the high point of contrast. And then I'm using, I don't know if you can see in the trees in the back there, but there's a wee bit of some of this kind of thing happening in the back. And it's a nice thing to break up because olive leaves are kind of a cool green. And so this gives me a little bit of warm in here, but note that I've got the tone muted down, and the chroma is not going to be quite as high as this big bright green here of the rape. Okay, so even though it looks sloppy, I'm really hoping that I can start to layer things in. And I purposely chose to do my strokes very choppy because I want to, I want to loosen up from what I have been trained to do. And this is one way to force me to do it. But also I want to get some texture on the canvas. And also you can see I put a wee bit of purple in the darks, which is kind of fun. Look at the light there. Okay, I don't know if that shows up in the video or not, but I'm starting to get some texture here. Now, some of that, I'm not sure if that's some of the acrylic retarder or if it's actually some of the color. I don't like this chunk that's right there, and it seems to... That's the nice thing about acrylic. When it dries, it's something I can scratch off if I don't like and paint over again. But it's not to say that it doesn't show errors and that kind of thing if I don't really like, you know, like this kind of thing. There, I don't like that. But I do really love to paint on wood. And I'm finding this is fun. So, see, I'm putting a little bit of different tones. I love this. Look at that. What's reflecting? Maybe that's my turquoise dress, do you see? My turquoise might be reflecting into the black here because it looks kind of a blue-green when I look at it from here. But it's very much a black. It's one of the first things I put on the painting, actually. So, I'm going to keep developing this, but right now my paint is dry. It's a good place to stop. And also, I want to watch the light. It's about 12:30 maybe right now in the afternoon. So I think what I'm going to do is check out this light, because one thing I like is, do you see this column of light coming right down here in the middle? And it's coming almost straight down actually from this angle of the sun, which is nice because it leads right into my subject area. So I'm thinking that if I put a dark background, oops, the wind's blowing my canvas off again. If I put the dark back in here, then when I go in over it with the lights, I'm going to have a really nice contrast without later trying to piece together the background, although that's a valid method as well. So I'm happy with this first start, and I'm going to go eat something and see what happens, because again, this is my first day. I want to watch what the light is doing in the leaves and the trees, because one thing I didn't think about enough, I think, as I was starting this, was grouping my darks and lights a little bit more. I focused on putting in the shape of the tree, but I didn't actually develop which side the light is receiving, and so it doesn't look three-dimensional right now. It just looks like a triangle. But I want to get into that. I don't know that I'll get as detailed as to put all the leaves and kind of thing, but I can certainly imply that it's a tree. And I do want to imply that there's fruit on it, although I may have to rethink that because the fruit is quite small in proportion, and I don't know that a bunch of little dots would do anything unless I had zoomed in closer, which was my original idea, but then I got lost in the whole triangle thing. So this is Kelly Borsheim. I'll see you in a bit, and check out my finished works at borsheimarts.com. It's BORSHEIMARTS.com. Thanks for following my journey. Ciao. Buon appetito.